So great to see you all. We've got Alec, Stewart, Vikram, Solanki, who are going to talk cricket in terms of updates and all the like in terms of preparations for the season. They're going to do 5 to 10 minutes to give you an update on that. I'll do 5 to 10 minutes in terms of an update on other issues, which hopefully will cover quite a lot of ground. We've got lots of questions that have come in already through John Surtees, and he's going to pose those questions to us. And we're also going to keep a really close eye on the chat area, and we'll try and bring in as many of those questions as possible, so we can get as much information out to you as we humanly can over the next hour or so. So if I can first introduce Alec and Vikram to talk cricket.
Thanks, Chief. If everyone's on mute, apart from myself and Vikram, hopefully that will work pretty well. So thank you for that. I don't know if it's too late, but let's start by wishing everyone a very happy new year. Hopefully it will be a healthy one, and hopefully we'll see you all at the Kia Oval at some stage from April onwards. Just to give you a little bit of an update of where we are, someone's still not on mute. If you can just go on mute, please. Someone's got the news on in the background. Neil Moby, you're not on mute. Thank you, sir. It was just, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of where we are off the field, and then hand over to our head coach, Vikram, to talk about what's been going on from a training point of view. We'll start with England, because we've just beaten Sri Lanka 2-0. You've seen a number of our players are out there. Sam Curran obviously played in that series and did bits, but it was more of a spinners thing, and the oldies in Broad and Anderson, plus obviously the world-class batting of Joe Root. But it's good that we've got our players out there. Looks like Ben Folkes is going to be playing a second, third and fourth test match in India, with Jos Buttler coming back to rest here. And Amar Virdi, all the reports we're getting from Sri Lanka, though he's out there as a, if you want to call it, reserve, he's gaining valuable experience, and the feedback has been very good. So if all things are equal, he may be putting his hand up to go into that squad at some stage during the India series. Rory Burns, our captain, he jumped on a plane at the weekend and is now in India isolating so that he can then start training. He's also now a father. His wife gave birth to a baby daughter early in the new year, so that's good. And Ollie Pope isn't in the squad, you'll have seen that, officially for India. It's just until his shoulder has given him 100% confidence that he can dive and do everything that's asked of him. But myself and Vic have had regular contact with Pope. He's batting nicely, as he always does, and once he is fit, they will add him to the squad straight away, and if not the 11 straight away. But he's making very, very good strides, and he'll be back fit and firing as soon as possible. Just a couple of the other lads you've seen. Will Jackson's been out in the Big Bash. Didn't set the world alight, unfortunately. He missed out on a number of games because of the overseas ruling when David Milan went out to the Hobart Hurricanes. But I spoke to Jaxie this morning. Gained valuable experience. You know, whether he scored 100 every game or naught every game, he will come back a more experienced and better player for being the overseas player in Australia. And we look forward to welcoming him back. Currently, Laurie Evans and Jamie Overton are in Abu Dhabi. They've got the T10 starting. You've seen Kumar Sangakkara is involved in that. So those two are out there. Reece Topley has been picked up in the Pakistan Super League. Again, that will be subject to his selection for the England White Ball Tour of India, which will be announced in somewhere around 7th, 8th, 9th of February, is my understanding. And the rest of the lads are back here, either training, which Vic will talk about shortly, and getting ready for what I hope will be a full, and I'll call it proper season. We've also got the IPL coming up. I'll just touch on that. The auction will be on February the 11th, I think it is. Some of our players will go into that auction. Sam Curran's been retained. Tom Curran, Jason Roy and Reece Topley are highly likely to go into that auction, and then we'll see if they get picked up. I've spoken to Kumar Sangakkara, who's the new director of cricket at Rajasthan Royals, and have threatened him if he picks up any of those Surrey players. We'd rather they didn't get picked up so they're available. But at the same time, we'll be catering for them to be in that IPO and therefore unavailable for us. On an overseas point of view, we're not moving yet. We've obviously got Hashim Amla as one, but we can't move and won't move on our second overseas player for championship or conference cricket, as we should call it, yet. Number of reasons. One is we need to see who's in the IPL. We also need to know the full international itinerary, who's going to be in a World Test Championship and people's availability. The COVID situation also adds to that. Obviously, we may have, Boris will have come up with a few more master plans, I'm sure, between now and then. But a number of overseas players are also very wary at the moment of coming here because where they're currently based, COVID levels are near enough zero. And obviously here, it's headlines in other parts of the world about what's happening here. We've just gone over 100,000 deaths, sadly, I've just seen. But we will be working hard to get an overseas player. We've got a few who we are considering, but we can't make a move until we have 100% certainty, or as close to 100% certainty of their full availability, certainly for the first 8 conference games. And then there's a gap, and then there are 2 more to make it 10 for that first part of the summer. But we are looking, and we'll be doing our best to get someone of the right calibre to add to the quality we already have. That's enough from me, because I know there's going to be questions later on. I'll hand over to our head coach, Vikram, who can talk to you about how training has gone and how the lads are in general. So I'll go on mute and hand over to Vikram.
Evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Gaffer, for the comprehensive sort of situation that we find ourselves in. On that, it is a slightly strange sort of scenario that we find ourselves in, and everybody's going through it in their daily lives. We are fortunate enough to be able to train at the moment because elite sport has been given an exemption, and a number of lads are working very hard to get themselves best prepared for the season ahead. On that, I mean, I've seen a couple of questions about the likelihood of what the season might look like. Are there likely to be any situations where the season's curtailed? We simply don't know. So from a cricket point of view, we're doing our best to just be prepared for the schedule that we have in front of us, the fixtures that we have in front of us. And that's to start our championship season, the conference season against Gloucester. We've got a number of warm-up games before that, but we're trying to put in place, given the restrictions that we find ourselves in, the best possible sort of training schedule and calendar that allows our players to be ready to take part in those games and be competitive. If I give you a brief overview of just a flavour of what that involves, the restrictions mean that we can't essentially have any group training, and I think we've taken a decision on advice from the club doctor, the club physio, and within the science and medical team about being very cautious about what's at stake here. And I think the conversations we had were along the lines of we have a greater responsibility as well, broader than and just looking after our sort of immediate colleagues, just to try and manage the spread, as has been the sort of point that the government and everybody's tried to stress. So within that, we're really restricted on how we go about our training. It's effectively just one-to-one training. We've had to make a number of changes to try and give ourselves the best opportunity to keep training. We've had to move the gym facility to the Alec Stewart gate side of the ground. We've had to be mindful of the number of people that can participate in the indoor centre. Just as an example, there's only ever 4 people in the KBC with a sort of a ventilation throughout. Doors are left open. In the gym, as everybody would know it, that is effectively what is now called the rehab gym, and only guys on rehab programs are using that. And even with that, there are restrictions as to how much contact the physios can have. So under difficult circumstances, we're trying our best, I think, is a message that I try and get across. All of that said, the players have worked very hard, and we're conscious that we were a little underprepared in terms of the physicality that the players found themselves in at the start of last season, which then led to a number of injuries. There was no getting around it. The crux of the matter was that the preparation time was shortened, and we went into a competitive phase very quickly soon after that. That, in addition to, as I'm sure we'll probably speak about, the sort of availability of players reduced due to being part of England bubbles, made things very difficult. So we've tried to take control of the fact that we're trying to prepare our players as best we can to be ready. Again, a little bit more example. In the KBC at the moment, we've got myself doing all of the batting work that we possibly can with all of the players on a one-to-one basis. We've got Richard Johnson doing all of the seam bowling work, but it's all on a one-to-one basis again at the opposite side of the KBC centre. Gareth Batty is doing some work with the spinners at the moment. We've obviously only got Dan Moriarty here. Alex Stewart comes down and does some work with Jamie Smith on his keeping. So we're all just trying to do the best we can. Is effectively the message I'm trying to get across. They've worked very hard. They've been very patient because they're under sort of strictly allocated times when they must leave each of the training venues. They have a sort of 10-minute turnaround as to travel between the venues, so there's no crossing over, all on a one-way system. And just one other additional bit of news as far as, well, not news, but I suppose as far as the training is concerned, we're hoping the marquee's up and being prepared now. So we're hoping to add another training venue to be able to use the KBC, the marquee for the bowlers as of next week, which will be hugely beneficial because it'll allow us to manage all of the players that are here. And then we'll just try and make sure we've got times allotted and allocated for those effectively 4 training venues, which we hold in the Oval.
Thanks very much, Vic. That's fantastic. I'll just hand over to Richard now for a quick update from him before we move on into everyone's questions.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'm extremely grateful for the support of members throughout last year and indeed going into this year. It was not an easy or indeed popular decision in terms of a 25% offer on membership refund, and I was kind of blown away by the reaction in a positive way by the membership. Around 29 to 30% of members did apply for that 25% refund, which is very good. The remaining 70% didn't even ask for the 25% refund, which is an extraordinary number. There were, of course, a few more difficult conversations in between those that we had, but genuinely and generally, the understanding was outstanding, and we don't take that at all for granted. We know that members have contributed hugely to the ability of the club to go into next season in a viable state, and we are doing absolute utmost to ensure that we repay members' loyalty, not just with kind words, but also with value. And so, for example, the £30 discount for direct debit holders this year, there is what we like to call beer money, an amount of money that is being placed on members' membership cards for this year. We, in terms of international tickets, we rolled those over at the same price as last year, and so anybody that purchased West Indies tickets had it rolled over into an India year, and indeed we kept the prices at West Indies prices for the India Test next year, all of which we hope will add extra value to membership, and certainly the Lord's prices were quite eye-watering last week when they went on sale, but shows you the demand that there is for international cricket. And we'll continue to find other ways that we can keep repaying members for their loyalty in proper value as we go forward in the next year or two. We effectively accept that as a liability that we need to repay, and we will do. The finances, we're just finishing off, well, the auditors are just about to arrive. We will lose money, as you'd expect last year, so we will suffer a loss. We were hoping to make a profit of around 3.5 million last year. We will make a loss of somewhere within the £2 to £3 million bracket mark. We are trying to keep hold of our cash as carefully as we can. Relatively difficult because obviously we've had the large development going on at the same time. But our cash position is as healthy as we could hope for. We're now starting to budget for next year, the season that it's just about to start, and I have to say that is quite a difficult assessment to do. You know, will we have crowds in? I've already seen on the chat net, what are we expecting in terms of crowds? Well, I can assure that our finance director and our treasurer also want to know those answers, because that will help us to inform as to what kind of financial position that we'll be in. I think what my expectation is, or what I'm planning on and hoping for, is that by mid-April we will have members back in the ground, albeit in a socially distanced manner, as many of you experienced at the end of last year. So perhaps with smaller crowds of 2,000 to 3,000, and that would be for April and May, with the expectation or hope that from June onwards those crowds will start ramping up, particularly for the T20s, and then clearly for the international matches that will start with us in July. But your guess, frankly, is as good as mine. Just please be comforted that we are looking at every eventuality, from a normal season to a no season, to ensure that we can cater for all those eventualities. But we are desperate to have members back into the ground as soon as possible. And of course, if and when when the crowds are allowed back in, and I'm sure it will be in relatively small numbers to begin with, please be assured that whether it's for Championship cricket or T20s or internationals, priority will always go with our members in the first instance. Looking forward to the season, our first game of the season is away at Bristol on the 8th of April, and then we are back here for a Championship match starting on the 15th of April against Leicestershire. We've got 2 months of Championship cricket before the T20 Blast starts. We are very hopeful that the season will go as planned. I think certainly in terms of last summer, we were one of the clubs that was pushing strongly to ensure that cricket did take place last summer. And as a result of that, there is huge amounts of confidence that the season will start and progress as normal. And as you've heard from Vikram, there are lots of elements that are being put in place to make sure that the players are ready for us. So I'm very confident on that. The season does have a new structure. There is the 100 starting this season, which does take out a 33-day block in the height of the summer, which is something that we've got to work around. I am extremely hopeful that the Championship season and the T20 season will go on without a hitch. But if we do need to make changes in order to make sure we get all the cricket in with as many people watching as possible, so if things need to be delayed or pushed around a little bit, I know that we have the flexibility as a game to do that. We did it last season, we can do it again. Let's just hope it's not necessary. For us, the international season is in the second half of the summer, so for club finances, that gives us a much rosier outlook, clearly with the Sri Lanka ODI and the India Test. Both of those fixtures are sold out, and in terms of demand for tickets, I have to say I have never seen such huge demand for cricket ever, particularly for Test match cricket. The demand has been outstanding, and that's really positive. I suspect it's partly because none of us have got anything marked in our diary for the next 12 months, and so the ability to book a ticket and put something in our diary is something that we all want to do. But it's great for cricket that you see that demand. In terms of our fixture list, our domestic fixture list, you've already seen the first 10 games for the championship within the conference setting. I have not received the T20 fixture list yet, and I haven't received the one-day fixture list yet. That was dependent on the allocation of international cricket to the other venues, namely the New Zealand tests that were announced, I think, yesterday or today. So the remainder of the fixture list, I am hoping that we're going to get through in the next 3 or 4 days or so, and then we can get that out to members and supporters next week as quickly as we can. I did see something in the chat about diaries. I know that members' diaries is a keen thing. I'm afraid there are no members' diaries this year. The supplier that normally provides them, not just for us, but the whole of cricket, just felt unable to go to print in any meaningful fashion this year because they didn't have a fixture list in time. So I apologise for that, but I'm sure that we will do absolutely everything we can to get these fixtures into your digital diaries or otherwise as soon as we know them. Finally, on facilities, we've got the new development 1 Oval Square, which is underway. It's coming along really nicely. If you're in and around the Oval, please do have a walk around on the outside. There's some great architecture that is going up, and it's something really very much that we could and should be proud of when it's finished. I met with the contractors this morning. It is suffering some delays through all the COVID elements that then has a knock-on effect on their subcontractors. But I am assured that for our first home game of the season, the new members' facilities will be open. They may not be fully open, but the main new restaurant suite bar will be available for you to go in, and also the new seats in just forward of it. And the remainder of it will open over the next 6 weeks after that. So slightly delayed, but we are working hard to ensure that come first day of the season, you can visit these new facilities and see what we're delivering, which is good news. That's all I've got. Serts is now going to go through some questions that were pre-issued by you to him in order to keep both me, Alec, and Vikram on our toes, and also Emily, who's going to be standing by answering the difficult questions that I can't answer. Then we'll alternate between cricket and non-cricket. If I just pick up a couple of stuff that's on the chat net, will the Oval be used as a mass vaccination centre? No, we're not being used as a vaccination centre. However, there is a vaccination centre just across the road in Montgomery Hall, and we've got all the medics using our car park from tomorrow morning. That'll do for the moment. We will get to as many questions as we can. Serts, go for it.
Great. Okay. At some point, we'll ask Emily the question about the size of her office that's just come in, but let's start with one that's been sent in beforehand. So I'm going to ask a question. This is for Stewie and Vic. This is from Freddie Lynch in London. Freddie says, given the huge impact on the men's squad of the extended England bubble size across all formats last season, what is the team doing in preparation in terms of mitigating the impact of losing more players to England for a longer time for the upcoming season? So Stewie and Vic, that one's for you.
Okay. Listen, a little bit like Vic said, we don't know. Are there going to definitely be bubbles, etc.? All we can do is we've got our squad. That is our squad. Are we going to add to it? No. Can we add to it? No. Last year, at times we lost 7, I think, in the bubble, plus a few injuries. But it's what we're up against. You know, through producing England players, this is it's not an issue. It's a nice issue to have because we want to have people from Surrey playing for England. We also want to have strong Surrey sides. So we'll just cope. You know, that's what we do. But will we have a bubble? How many of our players are going to be in the bubble? And that's how we work effectively. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Vikram. But that's the squad of players is the squad of players. Plus, as I said earlier, ideally one more overseas player.
No, just to echo that, the uncertainty just doesn't allow you to make any plans other than actually making sure. So one of the things that, as I sort of mentioned earlier, what we're trying to do in mitigating what happened last year was to try and keep our players fit. And that was really the intention behind having a longer program where we're trying to get, I think the phrase is chronic loading as far as training is concerned, but I'm sort of out of my expertise. But it's effectively trying to get them a sustained period of preparation so that they are able to then to take part in it. What hit us last year, I think, was the combination, the injuries as well as the England sort of bubble. The England bubble is something I think we should all be very proud of. To have players, as Alec mentioned, to have players involved with England is a huge bonus for us and something we should aspire to do. The injuries is the thing that I think we can try and be better at managing, and if we can in any way mitigate that by having a longer period of preparation, then that's effectively my sort of response to that question. I don't think we can do a great deal other than that.
Great, thanks, Vic. Richard, going back to you now. A question with regards to the one oval squad development. This one's from Pete Reeves, Richard Crumpton in Vauxhall, Sean Caulfield in London. There's a number of specific questions are coming, so I'll fold them all into one. Will the new membership bars and lounges be open to members? And can you specifically talk about the different formats? So Championship, Royal London Cup, T20 and international cricket. So if you could explain explicitly what the availability of the new facilities will be to members for those specific formats, please.
Yeah, people will remember the Peter May Garden, which is the new element at the top of the Peter May stand, which we know was very popular. That is now much bigger. It's undercover and it's connected to a very large new members restaurant and bar called the 175 Suite. All of those areas will be available for members to use on all Championship match days, days 1 to 4, all T20 match days, and all one-day matches. They're very much members' facilities. On international match days, we'll use it the same as we do the pavilion. That priority will be to those that are sat in those areas, but provided that we can get more people in there in a safe manner, then members will be able to go in and out of there on an international match day as well. Can I just pick up a couple of stuff that was on the chat net? There was a question in terms of if we are behind closed doors or if we do have limited amount of people in the ground for the beginning of the Championship season, will we be able to watch the streaming? The answer to that is very definitely yes. ECB are working on a really smart new system that will tie up all of the county matches that are being played in one place. But it will all be free to view. It will all still be on our website. It will be on an ECB website. It will be on YouTube, Facebook, and John Surtees and the team has done a cracking job in terms of quality, and we'll be hoping to make some more improvements this year. So even if you're not at the ground, you will be able to follow all of our games live. The only ones you won't be able to follow live are those that are televised by Sky. So we'll make sure that we do that. There've been a few questions in terms of if we're at reduced capacity for internationals, how will we decide who gets what seat? I don't know exactly yet in terms of the details, but priority will be with members. So if, for example, 25,000 seats is reduced to 50%, and we've got 12,500 seats, and 8,000 of those that are bought for day one are members, then the priority will, in the first instance, be with those 8,000. I'm hoping it won't get to that point. On to you, Serts.
Great, thanks, Richard. Yeah, the question about access for members in terms of if capacity has to be reduced was asked by quite a lot of people in advance as well. So they will appreciate the clarity on that one. Going back to cricket, I've got a couple of questions for Stewie and Vic from Amin Rahim, who sent these in beforehand. Amin has asked, what sort of gourmet diet have you and the players been on in this pandemic? And would you recommend it? And also, what is the position regarding vaccination for our players?
Well, I'll answer the second bit. We're under the government guidelines. I'm old, but I haven't had the vaccine yet, and our players certainly haven't. So we'll just wait. You know, there's nothing for elite sport, and quite rightly so, for the vaccines to come in earlier. Vikram loves his food. I'll let him answer the gourmet thing. Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that really. As far as I'm concerned, I've been doing what I can when I'm in London, and home cooked food and whatever. Soup seems to be the order of the day when we're at the ground, because the players are in and out otherwise. But on a serious note, you'll be aware, or if you're not, the players are tested fairly regularly, so their body compositions are tested fairly regularly, so they do have to keep on top of certain body fat percentages and things, so they'll be making sure they're looking after themselves. Or I don't know if you've come across him, our strength and conditioning coach Daz Vaness. He can be quite an intimidating character, so they all know very well to make sure they're keeping off the chocolates and biscuits and whatever, to make sure they're in decent shape.
Yeah, if I had a choice between a pack of chocolate digestives and being shouted at by Daz Vanessa, I know what I'm choosing, that's for sure. So Richard, back to you. Giles Tippler, looking a little bit further into the future, has come in before the forum, and he's asked quite a lengthy question, so I'll just read it out here. With the construction of the new One Oval Square almost finished and ready for the new season, do you have any initial plans of what the new Bedser stand might look like? And are you still on course to complete the build ready for the 2023 Ashes? Given the rapid increase in popularity of the T20 in the capital and the success of the England team, the Oval would still easily sell out a 35,000 plus crowd, in Giles's opinion.
Thank you. I agree with him in terms of demand. It's there for everyone to see. We do have some early plans as to what a new Bedser may look like. In terms of it being ready for 2023, I just can't see that, unfortunately, now. The financial position means that we have taken a hit over the last 12 months. Our balance sheet and our reserves need to be replenished before we start again on that one. I'll endeavour to get some designs out and about those, so people can see what that could and should look like, because we always want to be pressing ahead and improving things as much as we can. But at the moment, we also need to tread relatively carefully. It has been a very difficult financial position, and we need to make sure that we don't do anything that provides too much untoward threat. I'll just bring in Emily, if I may, here, because there have been quite a few comments about A, the size of her office, B, how hard she works. And I wonder if, Emily, could you just give us an update in terms of the membership, in terms of categories, because I know there were some questions about that, as to how many we've got in each category, and also with regards to membership cards going out, because we started sending those out early.
Yeah, firstly, just apologies if you can't hear me very well. I keep getting a little error message saying Wi-Fi is not working great, so feel free to cut me off if I go glitchy. Yeah, so when it comes to membership cards, I'll start with that. Previously, we used to let Ticketmaster distribute all of our membership cards, which worked fine. But for example, if Alec Stewart called up and said, "Where's my membership card?" we wouldn't necessarily be able to tell him on what day it was posted and when he should expect to receive it. And so we wanted to do it in-house just to give us a bit more control. So we've done that. We've been working hard in the office, doing it all ourselves over December and January, and we're almost there. We've almost got everyone's membership cards out, and if you haven't received yours yet, then you will do so in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And you'll also receive an email when it's on the way to you, so you can keep an eye out for that and know to expect it in the post. So yeah, there's a lot of hard work gone in from the membership team to make sure they've been distributed over Christmas, but we're nearly there, so everyone will have their cards soon. In terms of membership numbers, we're at about 11,500. In comparison, on this date in 2020, so for the 2020 season, we had about 12,000 members. So we're 500 short of where we were last year, but actually the difference is in new members. So we've had more members renew for 2020 at this point in the year, which is great. And again, just to echo Richard and everyone else's comments so far, really appreciate all of the support from everyone renewing for the 2021 season. So the difference now in our membership numbers is new members. Typically we pick up new members towards the start of the season, so we do still expect to increase our membership numbers as new people decide to join us as the season approaches. So we're looking for similar figures to what we've had in previous years, and hopefully get to 13,000 or 13,500 as we have done in the past couple of years. In terms of categories, so I'm sure everyone here is kind of familiar of the different membership categories that we have within the structure. So in terms of county, that's our biggest membership category in terms of number of members. We've got 4,500 members within that category. The next most popular is Surrey in England with 3,500. We do expect to see that grow as we start to allocate more and more seats in the Peter May Garden. I know that's been a really, really popular new area of the ground. We're really excited for it to open. So if you've registered your interest in that, please do expect a call from us if you haven't received one already, and we'll get you a seat sorted in that new area. We then have a championship membership, which has 1,000 members, and then the rest is taken up obviously through 16 to 25 and T20. We have a corporate membership package and also debentures and Pride Lions as well. We tend to see 16 to 25 and T20 members join towards the start of the season. So although we've only got 600 or 700 members in those categories at the minute, they will reach around about 1,000 as we get nearer to the season. So that hopefully gives you a bit of an understanding of how the numbers compare across all the different categories.
Great, thanks, Emily. That's fantastic. And just a shout out there for Richard Crumpton, who lives in Vauxhall, who specifically wanted to know that, and Sean Caulfield as well. Richard, just one follow up to what Emily said there from Richard Crumpton. Can you just give an update? Do the club only plan to limit membership numbers in future, given how quickly they're rising?
The club rules puts a limit of 15,000 on our membership. We'd like to take that up to about 20,000 at some stage, but yes, there is a limit. But we think that we could go above there, provided we continue to expand members' facilities. We don't really want to get to a closed membership list. We quite enjoy being an open and accessible club as much as we can. And just to put it into context, in 2011 we're about 7,000, so to have got to 14.5, 15,000 last year was great. It's good fun being part of a vibrant club like that.
We'll head back to cricket in a minute, but whilst we're on membership, just a few quick ones. David Schofield, also from Vauxhall, says he's a member who lives very locally. He'd like to make the most of his membership, and he'd like to know what facilities will be available in future to members and their guests on non-match days.
We would hope to open a members' dining facility, lunchtime dining facility, as soon as possible, similar to what we had open last year.
And a quick one from Pete Reeves, who wonders, given the new development, what areas of the ground are being put aside for members to sit in for 2020 games?
The members for T20 games, we are going to allocate effectively one oval square. So not just the lower bowl, but also the tiers above that. So we're going to bring all of the members over to this side of the ground. There were some in the John Major balcony area last time, but they're all going to come over to this side and hopefully make a right old raucous noise in the middle of the T20s. Yeah, and we'll absolutely let the players know exactly where the members are going to be sat, and I think they'll probably quickly find out from given the noise that's going to be coming from there. And then one final question, then we'll move on from membership. Nick Mathers has just put this in the chat room as well, which is well timed. I was going to ask this anyway. Another one that came in from Pete Reeves, and I don't want to put my own opinion on this question, Richard, so I'm going to quote Pete. Pete says, will the dreaded 100 be part of our new membership? And again, what areas of the ground are being dedicated to members? And will the members' bars and the credits be available to spend at games in what Pete calls the dreaded 100? Quoting Pete there again. Yes, the members areas that are available for T20 will also be available for the 100. We may not need all of those areas depending on demand. Members beer tokens will be available to be used at all games. There was something on the on the chat earlier about social media, and we put something on social media saying that Jason Roy had been retained by the Oval Invincibles, questioning why we were championing the 100 on our own social media channels. I don't think we need to champion it because the 100 has got significant marketing budgets of its own. But I think on our channels, if there is something that that is affecting our club in terms of players or use of the venue, then we think we should let you know. It's not necessarily championing it. We understand that for many members, the 100 is an anathema, but it's news nonetheless. We won't champion it, but we will promise to keep you informed.
Great. Thanks, Richard. Go back to cricket now. Richard Green in Thamesmead says, this one specifically to Stewie. He says, Stewie, I was very surprised and disappointed to hear the release of young Sean Hunt to Sussex. It seems only 2 or 3 years ago that he was touted to be one of our most promising youngsters. What is the reasoning behind Sean's release? And then just to add to that, there was a question. I'm just going to scroll back in the chat room, and it's from Jason Hiscox. He says, like Liverpool, who famously promoted from within, and don't let that turn you against the question, Stewie. Who do you think is the next cab on the rank to make an impact from the academy in first team cricket? So, question on Sean going to Sussex, and then who do you think in the academy is best placed to come in and make an impact on Vikram's squad?
Yeah, well, Richard first. We haven't released Sean Hunt because he wasn't under contract to us. Sean has been in the setup. We're very much aware of him. Last year wasn't ideal because there was no second team cricket where we could have seen more of him. We brought him up to the nets when COVID allowed, so he was a part of that. We obviously had discussions with him about his winter plans, and he went out and he's currently in Adelaide at the Darren Lehman Academy and playing for West Torrens in the South Australian grade cricket. And he knew how we'd mapped it out, that he was going to come back, have pre-season with us. He was going to be playing second team games for us. And then if we felt that he had reached the relative standard that we expect of our players, then there was the opportunity of him being offered a rookie contract with Surrey, which he knew, his parents knew, and everything else. And then come, when was it, November, Sussex had gone to him and offered him a 2-year rookie contract. We discussed it. We couldn't give him those guarantees, but we could give him the guarantees of playing second team cricket with the ability to earn a rookie contract, and he's chosen to go down the Sussex route, which we respect. From Gareth Townsend, the director of the academy, I speak to regularly. He couldn't give a tick in every single box on Sean's progress, and that's why we just wanted to see a little bit more. So we've wished him luck. Obviously, we'll be playing against him because Sussex second team and Surrey second team play against each other a lot, and we also have the understanding that if he continues to improve, then he will always have the opportunity of coming back here. One, if he wants to, and most importantly, if we want to have him back here. But he is a prospect, but he hasn't ticked enough boxes currently to have been offered a contract right now. And that's why he's chosen the other route as against trying to earn one with us. And we wish him the best of luck. From the other side of things, who'll come through from the academy, the next cab off the rank? Good question. There's no one right at this minute who I will say is definitely going to come through. Jamie Smith, obviously, is one of the more recent ones to have come through, and Vikram can speak on Jamie. He's someone who I, have got high hopes for, but we want to see people being challenged. We're not here just handing out contracts just because they've come through the academy. The Liverpool thing, or whatever that team is up there. We all have our own way, and we've produced a lot, and things do go in cycles. We had the golden era, if you wish to call it that, of your Sam Currans, your Verdis, your Popes, Ryan Patels, and these types of people. Then there'll be a couple of fallow years because that happens, and then we'll have some more coming through. So I'm not going to give you a name right now, but what I will tell you is that we're watching how they are what they're producing, how they go about training, how they go about themselves in match situations, so that if and when that opportunity comes, that we want to offer them something, they will be ready. And they're told that all the time. So hopefully that's answered that question as well. But Vikram, I don't know if you want to talk about Jamie Smith while we're talking about recent academy graduates.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, I think we're all excited about Jamie, including outside the club, really, that you know, from the ECB point of view. I think there have been a number of inquiries, and he's worked very hard. Last year, he showed glimpses of maturity. Really, we needed everybody to sort of contribute, not just by performances, but actually to become leaders within the group, because of the fact that we'd lost so many senior players to England or to injury. And Jamie really stepped up as far as that is concerned. He showed a real maturity and a real thoughtfulness towards the game, his colleagues, his teammates, the opposition. And he's those that know him will know this, or might be surprised to hear this, but he is entirely unfazed by anything that is put in front of him, which is a great asset given the sort of talent he has. You know, there were a number of times where he was put in pressure situations in the games and he responded brilliantly. Just to add to Alec's point about the academy, I'm really glad that Alec hasn't mentioned somebody. I think it's unfair to put that type of pressure when somebody like Alex Stewart says that this is the next cab off the rank as far as the academy is concerned. I think that's really unfair on the youngsters involved. There are some talented young kids there. Unfortunately, we're sort of limited as far as how often myself or Alec or anybody can get to the academy, because we're trying to effectively manage a sort of controlled environment. Gareth Batty spent a lot of time there, and he's very excited by some of those lads. But I'm really pleased that you know, it's the last thing young players need is for Alex Stewart to sort of say he's the next cab off the rank. You just don't need that type of pressure on young shoulders.
Thanks, Vic. I've got a question now. A few people in the chat room have asked this. I'll put this to Richard, and I'll wear this as an error for myself as well. A few people have suggested that we, for the last few members' calls, we haven't put anyone up from the women's cricket setup. People like Richard Bedbrook or Ebony Rainford Brent, the director of women's cricket. So, Richard, are you just able to give people an update as to the situation with the Surrey women's team, the South East Stars, the Women's 100, and just that whole thing in general? And yeah, I'll commit to the next time we do one of these, we'll make sure that aspect of the club's work is represented properly. Yeah,
we'll do. Ebony, couldn't unfortunately be with us tonight. She's had her grandmother has passed away, sadly, so she is away dealing with that aggressively. The women's cricket structure has now changed in English cricket. We used to have a Surrey women's team, as you remember, competing in things like the Kia Super League, which was the top tier of women's cricket. The ECB have restructured women's cricket now, and they've effectively taken it outside of the county envelope. And although we do still have a Surrey women's team, it is not competing, unfortunately, in the top level competitions, because the ECB has created two other women's competitions. One is based on the Centres of Excellence, and the team that represents us there is the South East Stars, which is basically a combination of us and Kent, and that's based on a regional level. And the other women's competition is the Oval Invincibles, playing in the 100. So we don't have the same immediate link as we used to, and for us that is a great shame and not something that we wanted to happen. We are trying to make the best of it, and many of you will remember Richard Bedbrook, who is head coach for the women's cricket. He is now head coach, or he's director of cricket for the South East Stars. He also has responsibility over the Oval Invincibles, And he also has responsibility over the Surrey women's cricket team. So he's got a bit of a job on his hands. And as you can see, we're effectively running 3 women's teams out of the Oval, albeit only one has a direct relationship with the club. That said, we will continue to promote and support women's cricket as much as we possibly can. And indeed, Richard Bedbrook and the South East Stars have been regular attenders even over the last 3 weeks of lockdown here. Their offices are here, they are training here, they're using our facilities, and we are trying to put our arm around them as much as possible. They have also recruited a number of staff. Alec, do you want to explain head coach of South East Stars, for example?
Yeah, so Johan Myberg has come in, who you may be aware of from Somerset. He's come in as a head coach. The chief's already spoken about Richard Bedbrook and what a fine job he is doing. And women's cricket is moving forward. You know, it's here to stay, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and better and better. And at the moment, they're sharing training facilities, one at Beckenham, while that is still available, and also here at the Kia Oval. They've kicked us out a couple of times just because of how timetables are. But Bedders has got a big job on his hand. He's appointed some good people, and it'll be really interesting to see over this year and the following years how big the crowds get. And it's becoming that much more popular now. That it won't be long, I wouldn't have thought, until there's a sold-out game at the Kia Oval, 25,000 people turning up to watch.
Building on that, you'll see when the fixtures for the 100 are released that they are largely double headers. So there are women's games taking place on the same day as the men's games are taking place, just a few hours before. And the opening game of the 100 for the women's tournament is likely to be here, and they'll be trying to drive a big crowd. But we will also be making sure that Surrey and the Surrey women's team are also given the biggest platform that we can provide for them. That's not the ECB's chosen route, but things like the London Cup, where the Surrey women's team will play against Middlesex at the Oval, at the Kia Oval. Those sorts of things will continue. Just in picking up a couple of stuff in chat. With regards to the popularity of the OCS stand for T20 matches, we get that. Our premise is that our best facilities need to go to our members, and once you get inside the One Oval Square development, you will, I am sure, quickly agree that they are the very best facilities. They are simply different gravy in terms of the John Major room and the small bar that's in there, the bars that will be available, and the concourse areas, and the number of toilets, and the ability to roam, and the views are simply extraordinary. So I know you've got to take my word for it, but please be aware we would only make that change if we thought it was an upgrade, and we very definitely think it is. So
yeah, Richard, just one quick follow-up on that. You mentioned about the concourse areas in the new One Oval Square. Just a question that came in advance of the forum, which is linked to that, from Becca Garrard, who describes herself as being from Leeds/Purley. She says, I'm just wondering if we were planning on including a tribute to Robin Jackman in the new development. She thinks it would be nice to have something in his name. Perhaps you could talk about that quickly, and then also maybe just mention about what happened last week for Robin and obviously John Edrich as well, who sadly both passed away around the Christmas time. Yeah,
that news hit the club extremely hard, and the club did a commemorative event. It was online last week for a relatively small number of people, such as former players, family of those that were lost. Past presidents, and some of the extracts from that have been put on social media. As part of that process, it was I think it was Robert's brother that was talking about his house in South Africa, where he had a bar in his house, in his garden, and the bar was called the Nip Back Inn. And everybody thought it would be entirely appropriate if one of the new bars at the Kia Oval is named the Nip Back Inn, and we use it to remember Robin Jackman. But it was, you know, that news I think hit the club hard, and I think can I bring Alec in here, because you know, in terms of what it meant to his father and to you and many of the other players, it was quite traumatic.
No, it was a very sad time. Obviously, John Edrich is not just a Surrey legend, an England legend as well, and he played a lot of cricket with Dad, and Dad spoke, unbiased, but he spoke very well at this memorial Zoom service last week. But wonderful cricketer. I used to carry his bags in, believe it or not, back in the day when Dad was still playing, and it was a real honour then as a 6, 7, 8-year-old, just to know that I'd carried John Edrich's kit in from the car park. Sometimes he'd give me sixpence, I think, for doing it. And then he was also, from my England career, involved when Ray Illingworth was the England manager. He had John Edrich as the batting coach, and to be able to listen to him talk about batting and Graham Thorpe will give him glowing report as well, and the knowledge that he was able to pass on. So we're going to miss him. And then Robin Jackman, Jackers, I mean, I made my debut. He was playing. I came onto the staff. He was there, and he's just a wonderful person. You know, again, going back as my younger days when Dad was playing and was there, and there was Robin Jackman. Then I'm playing with him and on the staff with him. And then he obviously turned into a wonderful commentator when we used to go out to South Africa, play for England against South Africa. Always saw him, always caught up with him. And he'd always send me emails. The latest email was end of November, and he sent through a couple of emails just on some South African players. If we were looking for overseas bowlers, he mentioned Norkia, who opens a bowling for South Africa, to say that he thinks he could be a really good prospect in English conditions. Sadly, he's going to be in the IPL. But Jack has just loved Surrey. And I think anyone who saw the interview that he gave with Charles Colville, it's worth going on the website just to watch the very last bit if you can't sit through it all. It's a great interview. At the very end, I think Charles Colville says along the lines of, "What does Surrey mean to you?" And he was emotionally wiped a tear away and said, "Everything." And that's what Surrey does to people. And we've lost 2 wonderful people from our Surrey family.
Thanks, Stu. That's wonderful, wonderful words. We want to try and wrap this up in the next sort of quarter of an hour, 20 minutes or so, to give everyone a chance to go and get their dinner and watch whatever football's on tonight and that sort of thing. Stewie, cricket question, and can say Vic, obviously feel free to chime in on this one as well. Some specific questions about the futures of Jay Dernbach, Gus Atkinson, Gareth Batty, and Ricky Clark. Someone suggesting on the chat room they've got knowledge of contract situations and thought they might have not had a contract at the end of last season. So I could just so Gareth, Ricky, Gus, and Jade. How are those guys getting on?
Right. I'd be interested to know where he gets that information from, but fair enough. Perhaps he breaks into my office or into my laptop. They're all under contract for this year. Simple as, you know, they're under contract and they'll be available to play. Gareth Batty is forging his way as a coach. Vikram's already touched on that. And if and when we require him, he will be there to play. We saw what a great job he did as captain of the T20 last year. Took us to the final, and he can still do it. You know, he just loves the game. He's 43, I think he is, but at times he's still like a 23-year-old. But it would just be bridging that player-coach, coach-player situation. But no, whoever the question came from, they're all under contract, sir.
Great. Thanks very much, Stu. So lovely memories of Robin and John coming into the in the chat room there. Richard, back to you. You mentioned this at the top of the call, but I know quite a lot of people have joined since then. So I just want to go over it. Mark Gilby from SW19 and Mr. T. Broom came in with questions beforehand, both just asking about the position for refunds on the memberships from the 2020 season. I just wondered if you could just maybe go back a little bit over what you said at the start of the call.
Just to how grateful we were for the level of support that we received. We know that we owe members for the loyalty that they've shown, and we're going to do our absolute utmost in order to repay that, both in terms of quality of service that we offer, and also in terms of value. And we will make sure that things such as the beer tokens and the direct debit discounts and the international prices that we pay over the next year or two are priced in such a way that we can repay that value.
Great. Thanks, Richard. Just again, looking through some more questions that came through related to that one. Someone, Paul Reeves and Paul Woods from Bishop Stortford said, if we get no season or a curtailed season at this year, what plans regarding membership are being considered for 2021?
Yeah, we wanted to make it clear in the membership renewal that we would offer full refunds for next season if there is no cricket, or indeed partial pro rata refunds if you are unable to get in for a month or 2 months or 3 months. We desperately hope that's not the case, and I haven't quite worked out the system in which we'd be able to do it yet, but we will honour that, and we accept that it's the only way that members would have faith in us going forward. So we will find a way to do that. You know, if members are not allowed in for April or May, we will find ways of providing the money back as a refund if that's what they require, and we will honour that commitment. So if you can't get in to see the cricket, you will get your money back this year.
Great, thank you, Richard. And let's just try and fly through a few here. If anyone's got any desperate questions, here we go. There's one that's come up in the chat room a few times here. Are we having any new kit for 2021? Are there going to be any new shirts on the players' chests this year, or are we just going to be looking at the same colours for the three formats?
We'll be wearing the same whites or creams, so that won't change. But yes, there'll be a new 2020 shirt, not vastly different, but it will have a collar this year, as against just a round neck. And for the 50 over, that's going to be near enough the new training shirt that we will be wearing as well. You'll have seen that Kia now have a new logo, so we'll need to be rebranded with the new logo. So the 2020 will still be, say, the duck egg blue, I think we call it, but with a collar with the 3 Adidas stripes. And the 50 over shirt will be predominantly black. I'm not the best at describing fashions, etc. With a, I don't know if you call it camouflage grey or whatever on the front, with the new Kia logo across it. But it will be out in time for the new season and to buy online from the shop.
Thanks, Stewie. I think I speak for us all when I say if you'd maybe stick to the cricket rather than London Fashion Week. But that's thank you. People will appreciate that update, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, you dress for the radio, sir, so thanks for that.
Alec mentioned Kia, and it would be remiss of me not to thank our other commercial sponsors that have got us through last year as well. They have been outstanding, and it's when you have those long-standing commercial relationships that really pay dividends. And so not only have Kia stood by us in a very difficult year when we were unable to provide much of the profile that they would otherwise have wanted, but we've also got JM Fin, wealth management company that is actually our longest standing sponsor, and JM Fin have over the winter, through George Hampson and Charlie Hodgson's good work, agreed to step up to be sponsors of the JM Fin stand, what was formerly known as the OCS stand. That's a really significant move, and when you consider we're in the middle of the pandemic, I am so grateful that we've got those sorts of commercial sponsors and the loyalty that they show, as well as what members have shown. It's been a proper coming together of the Surrey family over the last 6 or 7 months.
Great. So yeah, that also references a question someone put on in the chat room about how to what extent have we rebranded the OCS stand as the 1845 stand. So obviously, as you say, that will look a little bit different this year, but less 1845 and more JM Fin. Richard, question for you from Harry Pilcher. I think must be a cricketer. Harry says, what thoughts might club management have regarding the opening of the Barrington Centre for limited use in accordance with the relevant COVID-19? Sorry, I misspoke there. The relevant COVID-19 restrictions.
Thanks to Harry for that one, who I know is closely involved with the rollout of vaccination centres and all the rest of it. It's a really serious point because so many clubs have been closed down over the last 6 weeks or so, and as soon as it's safe to do so, we need to get all cricket centres open because there are so many people missing out on activity and playing sport. I think we saw today Sport England go out with a very strong message and additional funding to try and kickstart activity, not just in the youngsters, but also in adult players. And we will, we'll get our centres open as soon as we possibly can, because normally, Tuesday night in January, if I walk down the stairs at 7 or 8 in the evening, the indoor school is absolutely full. The pros leave it at sort of 4 or 5 o'clock, and half an hour later we've got all recreational players coming in, and clearly that's empty. So so many people are missing their nets, they're missing the ability to play cricket, and I know we all want that to bounce back as soon as it's safe to do so.
Richard, another question just regards to COVID. I'm sort of rattling through them here to try and make sure we get done in time. Simon Chowdhury, who I believe works at Guys at Thomas Hospital, he says, as does Keith as well, his son, I think. He says, what has the club been able to do to support local schools and the local community? Do we have ongoing links with local hospitals?
Yeah, we do. We are not being used as a vaccination centre, but we're supporting the vaccination centre next door, which I think opens tomorrow in Montgomery Hall. So we've got a lot of the doctors and nurses using us as a car park. We have our kitchens are being used in the evenings in order to provide meals from this amazing individual, Tim, who's providing hundreds and thousands of meals to staff at King's Hospital. So there's a whole variety of different ways that anybody who's got a request or a reasonable request to use our facilities, we're open for business, and we want to do as much as we can.
Great. Just to add something to that myself personally, Simon, Steve, there's a chap called Steve Wilson who runs the Ben Holyoake Centre, which is a super important community resource that we've had running. Obviously, incredibly important to everyone at Surrey, it being named after Ben, and that hasn't obviously been able to operate while schools have been under lockdown. But Steve has been voluntarily coming in. He lives just outside of London. He's been voluntarily coming in, working at local primary schools, helping. He's a computer science specialist, so he's been helping to reformat and prepare laptops that can be collected from schools by parents that don't have laptops at home, so kids aren't able to study. So Steve's been coming in and doing a lot of work with the local schools on that, which is fantastic. And he's also written them an entire coding curriculum to teach from distance. So yeah, we're really taking, as Richard said, everything we can do to help. Obviously, as with everyone, we are doing. Richard, a few more questions. Nick Cotton from Dinton in Buckinghamshire wants to check we'll still be serving real ale in our new restaurant area and a lunchtime carvery menu with the new development.
Very definitely, yes.
Great, that is good news. Tony Jarvis would like to know a little bit more about the members affiliate program, which I think has been given a bit of a soft launch, but members can expect to hear more about before the start of the season. Maybe Richard or Emily can come in on that one.
Emily, do you want to talk about that one? That's the one.
Yeah, sure. So again, apologies if my internet fails me, and John, feel free to cut me off if needed. So yeah, for the 2021 season, something new that we've introduced is a member affiliate program. So basically, a team of us here at the Oval have gone out to lots of local and national businesses and come up with lots of different offers and discounts and voucher schemes and such that we can then send to members, and you guys can use those from the 2021 season. So all of that information will be published on the website and will be in your 2021 membership packs as well. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, hopefully it's just more value that we're adding to our membership for 2021.
I'm going to wrap things up now. We've got through so many questions, which is great. We'll do another one of these again soon. When I say soon, I mean next month, within 4 to 5 weeks, because I'm sure there will be lots more questions as we get more clarity on when the season's going to begin. I'm going to give Alec and Vikram the opportunity to finish things off, because they'll no doubt want to talk about their ambitions for the season, or anything else they want to cover. But again, I just want to thank members for their loyalty. We are doing everything we possibly can to keep the club in the healthiest state possible, and you are the key part of that. I'm an optimist, but I'm also pragmatic, and I am confident that we will get to see members back at the club sooner than perhaps others would have us believe. And I'm still extremely hopeful that come the 16th of April, we will be seeing members here. Remember, we have already gone through that opening up process that we did back in August and September. We've got the processes in place. We hope those processes won't be required, but if they are, we were the very first sports ground to open up to spectators in any sport in the summer. We're ready for you. We are so looking forward to you returning, and we can't wait. Alec, any final words from you in terms of cricket?
No, really, it was, I'll let Vic wrap it up right at the very end, but I just want to sort of look back, and then perhaps Vikram can look forward. But one is to say thank you for sticking with us in these tough times. Last year, or last season, was a real test. Without wishing to embarrass Vikram, he took over in really difficult times. One is the COVID situation, with Diva, who went back to Australia. And I spoke to him yesterday. Diva's in very good form, and he loves the club. But for Vikram to take over how he did, when he did, and then to work with the players as well as he did, I think it's a real credit to him. And he is one that won't sing his own praises, so I want to do that. His work ethic, the relationship he creates individually and collectively with the group is quite outstanding. So I'm very, very excited looking ahead with what Vikram, the management team and the players can do. But I just wanted to, before handing over to him, one, to thank him and to congratulate him on how he took on the role last year and took us to the final of the T20. We've spoken about the Bob Willis Trophy. That was tough. I don't care who was in charge. To deal with what was put in front of us was really, really tough. Yes, we'll say we could have done better, but the development that has been shown under Vikram's leadership is outstanding. So I'm very excited, but now, as I say, enough of praising Vic. I'll hand it over to him to wrap it up. But thank you again, members, for all the support you've given us and for the support you will give us moving forward in these tough times. I wish you a happy and healthy new year. Over to you, Vikram.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for those kind words. Just to echo what Alec has said, we're very grateful as a club for all of the support that the members have shown us, for your sort of continued participation in forums like this, as well as actually just, I know a lot of people have been in touch, and Emily had instigated initially a sort of contact point where we were trying to get in touch with members and stuff. A lot of the players really enjoyed that. From a cricketing point of view, I assure you, I recall the sort of first members forum that I attended. I'd hoped, and all of the support staff, including led by Alec, of course, our intention is to sort of be a team that the members can be proud of, and that remains the case. We had a tough time of it last year, but I assure you it wasn't for lack of trying. I assure you, moving forward, it won't be for a lack of trying that we prepare ourselves in the best possible way we can, and play the type of cricket that I'm sure you'd all like to come and enjoy at the Oval. And on that, we really do look forward to having our members back at the Oval. Everybody's been through a great deal over the last year or so, so to return to cricket and for us to have the opportunity to play is great, but it's so much better when our members are around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Great to see you, and I hope to see you before very long. Great. Thank you very much.